So grade school, first, second grade, right around there. Short, very pale, lots of freckles, and to be polite, I'll say chubby. My mom called it husky. Even I think my jeans said husky. But let's just say, awkward enough that I spent a lot of time in my bedroom reading comic books. And I became obsessed and fascinated with origin stories. Like the people and events that shaped our heroes, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and if I'm really honest, who shaped our villains. And being obsessed with that, I realized my origin story started in World War I. No, don't let the gray fool you. I was not in World War I. But my great-grandfather was. 19-year-old kid from Mississippi, but could speak fluent German. They send him overseas. They put him in an AEF unit, which was a unit that would go over enemy lines and sabotage and disrupt. And one dark night on a hill in France, he was shot and captured. They would interrogate him every day in the POW camp. Same German officer, stoic, pressed uniform, asking him the same questions day after day after day. And my grandfather never said a word. And then one day that officer came in to interrogate him, and he wasn't quite as well pressed. He was disheveled almost. And at the end of the same questions, the German officer stopped and asked my grandfather why he hated Germans so much. My grandfather, with his Mississippi draw, was like, I don't hate Germans. I don't hate anybody. Only thing I've ever hated in life is a yappy little poodle that lived next to my farm. And the German officer goes, French? And he goes, I'm not sure if him and his owner were French. Probably, because they all had a lot of bark and no bite. And they laughed. And that night, while my grandfather was in his cell, he could hear the German officers telling that story to each other. And then from that day forward, that German officer never really interrogated him. They would just talk, tell stories, because they were no longer enemies. They were just two farm kids, one from Germany, one from Mississippi. I heard that story every day almost from my great-grandmother and my grandmother. I never got to meet my great-grandfather, but he became my hero. And that story became my inheritance. Because I looked at it that if humor could keep my great-grandfather from a German firing squad, then maybe it could help this freckle-faced fat kid from getting picked last in dodgeball. And so I took that and I became the class clown. I got really good at it. I performed all the time. I mean, it got to the point where the teachers put me in the front row, not because I was struggling, but because I was dangerous to the learning environment. And what I found is when I'm always performing, I'm alone, even in a room full of people. Because I didn't take that story how I should have. I was just humorous, but I was sarcastic. I was cynical. I had a bad attitude. Quite frankly, I was a smart ass. I even disrupted the classes where my teachers would nurture that and try to help it grow. I would step over the bounds. I would disrupt. And it got to the point where I was exhausted and I was exhausting. but I didn't know how else to be. So I took that with me. Even when I went into athletics and I lost all that baby fat, I still, all the time, performing. And then I figured, well, I'm already performing, I might as well get paid for it, and I became a stand-up comic. And what I learned in that world, around all these unbelievably genius, funny people, unbelievably creative, is that those funny people, those ones that can light up a room, were usually carrying the most. The sad clown paradox is real. Chris Farley, Robin Williams, John Belushi, I miss them every day, and I've never met them, but I could identify with them. And being on stage, that sarcasm, that cynicism made a lot of crowds laugh. But after the show, I never felt connected. I never felt like there was a bond. So I changed my humor. I started making it observational. I started making it authentic. Most importantly, it came from a place of truth, and a lot of times pain. But what happened is, when I made that shift, guess what happened? The crowd would laugh, but they'd also say, yeah, me too. They identified with it. They felt it. And no longer was I making a tense situation a little better, but never really improving it. I was actually helping people become better lives. Because I'm up there talking about my imperfect life and joking about things that we all share. And when I do that, my imperfect life can make your imperfect life seem a little bit more perfect. So what can we do to help those unbelievably creative people that are geniuses at being funny? We can stop, and we can listen, and we can see behind the performance. And when we do that, you might just give them some courage. Because the bravest thing a clown can do is take off the mask. Thank you.